Alright, I got a little bit of a story today. I want to speak to you about the time of riding a bike, because we all know that I went through a 7-year period where I had to travel on a train with a bike, and it was a whole deal. There's a video of me talking about it, and I'll link it as I'm saying this so you can have a look at that before you have a look at this. But basically the run of the mill is, for the 7 months of my life, like a couple of years ago, because of my job and certain implications that came into my life, I had to move back home, which is away from where my job was. So I had to kind of figure out the best possible way to work around this. And at the time, I didn't drive. So I had to bike to work from a different town, grab a train, and then bike from the train station to work in a different town. And that's what I did for basically 7 months. And the reason I tell you that is because in that 7 months, the amount of times that I crashed into people, or we crashed into each other, it wasn't just me, it makes me sound like a bad guy. I promise I'm a good cyclist. I promise. At least I hope I'm a good cyclist. Maybe I'm a bad cyclist. Am I having a sudden realization that I'm a bad cyclist? Oh dear God. Anyway, the reason that I wanted to bring this all up is because I want to tell you about the time that I went through the procedure of damaging my front wheel and getting it basically repaired, and the ordeal that happened with that, because it was just mental. It was thing after thing after thing after thing, and I was just like, for fuck's sake. Let me just start off by saying that this was a normal day. So I had to, with my work day, I had to get up at like 5:45 in the morning. I then cycled to the train station for like 6:15, and then got a train that was like 40 minutes long to the city that I needed to work in. I then cycled through the city to then get to my job, and that was like a day-to-day recurrence. So I knew exactly where I was going each day. It wasn't like I was going a different route on this particular day. That is just the way I was going. The first time that I really bashed into something, nothing really happened to my bike. So we were basically coming, it was like a slip road, it was like a slip path type thing when you go onto like another path through like a little outback section just to walk through. So I forgot my helmet, and I wasn't going to cycle all the way home and then all the way back the next day just without a helmet, because I have a really weird thing with it. I have scars on my hands right now, so I'm going back to work on this thing, because I'm like, oh, I literally can't, I need to go back. So I'm going back, and I'm going up the slip road, and the guy is coming down, and basically what happens is we basically come like that, and obviously he's going down, so he's gaining speed, and I'm trying to get up. But then when we try and see each other, we don't lock where we go opposite directions, we lock and we go like that. And basically what happened is his wheel was basically in front of mine, and my wheel just basically slammed into his, so it went bang like that. My bike was a-okay, well, it was fine, and then his bike, however, wasn't too great. Obviously we exchanged details and we covered all that, and we got that all sorted. Go past a couple of months, I didn't get shaken up by it. It was just like my first time really thinking about, I need to make sure that if there's other cyclists who notice me and I notice them. It wasn't dark, by the way. In both of these situations, it wasn't dark, which probably makes it a little bit worse. I leave for a couple of months after forgetting my helmet and having that cyclist, and I'm not thinking about like how that's affected my bike going at that speed. And in one morning, I was coming to work, and I'd literally crossed a set of traffic lights, and I was going basically over a bridge. And what happened is that I was going on the left-hand side of the path, when really now I understand like the rules of the road. I'm a lot more confident on a bike on the road, but at the time I wasn't, so I was on the path. I was literally coming round this and going over this bridge and coming around the corner, and it was like a long corner as well, and I was on the left-hand side, and I saw this guy come, but he was also on like his right. So he was on the same side as me. Obviously, we tried to maneuver, but one of us didn't stay straight nor brake, and so we bashed into each other. And when I looked up, I didn't really look at my bike straight away. I looked up, and it was just like a kid in a school uniform with his bike. So I was just like, I'm not going to worry about it. It was my fault as much as his. I'm not going to get annoyed. I'm not going to get angry. I need to get to work. I need to not think about this. I instinctively say it's fine, don't worry about it, and he just goes off because his bike is fine. I then look at my bike. Literally what happened to the previous person that I spoke about coming down the hill had happened to me. You could say it was karma, probably was. We had like a little incident. It was a rough old deal because basically I had to then walk to work, and I was probably on a bike ride. I was probably like 10 minutes away from work. So walking with my bike took me roughly, I want to say, about half an hour, and I was already late getting to work at that point. So because trains were late and all this stuff, yada yada. Luckily everything was fine when I got to work. I wasn't hurt, but it was still like, oh, how am I going to get this home? What am I going to do? I had to basically walk my bike back to the train station, which is on the other side of the city that I was in. Obviously, I say city, it's a relatively small city. That took me 45 minutes. The amount of people that have never seen a broken bike kind of amazes me. Like, to this day, I still think about it like, oh, what happened there? Oh, that looks bad, doesn't it? Oh, rookie mistake. I'm like, do you think I did this on purpose? Do you think I actively broke my bike because I wanted to do this? And I remember getting on the train and just looking at it and being like, okay, fine. I've got to get this fixed because I need it for work. I literally can't not have it for work. When I got back from the train, my mum luckily picked me up, and we went to a cycling thing here, in like cycling shop thing here in the UK called Halfords, and we spoke to them about what we would need. Obviously we would need a new wheel because like literally my wheel was concaved in, and that was just the way it was. So they automatically assumed like, hey, you need to basically get a new wheel because you're not going to be able to use this one. There's no way we're going to be able to save it. And I was like, okay, that's absolutely fine. We will do that. Obviously, they didn't have one in stock, so we kind of had to wait. I can't remember how long I had to wait. I think it was like roughly about 2 weeks, but in that time I had to use like my stepdad's bike, which wasn't a bad bike. It was just very, very heavy in comparison to my like light bike. So after the 2 weeks of ARP, they got the part in. We were able to give them my bike to basically change over the part, which we happily did because we wanted it done and sorted on, and made sure that we got it actually like done professionally because we didn't really trust ourselves to actually do it. We gave it to them, they did it. I was like, okay, cool, I've got my bike back, everything's going to be fine now. You would have thought, right? But oh no. I get my bike back and I start going to work, and I realized that like when I look down at my front wheel, like after a couple of days, like the wheel's actually kind of just doing this constantly, and I'm sitting there, or I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why is it doing that? It's always wobbly, and like when I do it, like you can see like it's slightly wobbly, but the actual wheel didn't look like it was bent or wobbling side to side, because when you think it's wobbling side to side on a bike, you kind of assume that it's something to do with it's not tight enough, all this other stuff. And so I was going backwards and forwards for a couple of days, and this is a hefty like bike ride, and so I'm obviously putting my whole entire weight, and at this time I weighed probably near enough to 18 stone, so I was putting a massive amount of weight on the actual bike itself, and I was like, why is this doing this? So over time I was like, okay, what is going on? And I kind of looked at it, and because of the amount of weight that I actually put on it, after a while, they actually decided to like bend inwards, if that makes sense. Like it started to concave in on itself, because apparently one or a couple of the actual like spokes on the actual like wheel that was replaced weren't actually tight, and they weren't actually like supporting my weight. So obviously when it was hitting that like spoke, it was basically like hitting it but then putting weight on it and then damaging it because it wasn't holding the weight, because it wasn't like a stainless steel rod, it was like a flimsy wet noodle. So over time my wheel got progressively worse, and I was just like, okay, I literally can't ride my bike anymore because it's literally not allowing me to speed up, because then it started getting like scraping and being like different types of scraping. So it was progressively a lot harder to actually ride my bike. I spoke to my mum and I spoke to my stepdad, and I was like, why is this doing this? Because we literally got it fixed. And so we decided to take it back to the store, and we were like, we think something's wrong with this because I've had it for literally a couple of days and it's literally already proving to be an issue. I mentioned about like the spokes and how we think that one of them is loose, and we basically discussed like, oh yeah, like it's this one here that is loose, and that will cause damage to the wheel. And then and they were like, oh, I'm really sorry about that, we can order you a new wheel. So I'm like, well, no, because we gave this you to make sure that it's on there correctly and it works from the get-go, and it's been literally less than 2 weeks and the actual job wasn't done to the best of the capability. So as much as I hate it, I went full Karen. I was just like, well, there's no, obviously you've done the incorrect job. I just want a new wheel and to put a new wheel on it, because at the end of the day, that's what it was supposed to do. Makes me sound weird when I've gone Karen though. When you pay £60 and it falters within 2 weeks, or gets a fault because of someone else's incompetence, it's kind of frustrating. And plus, it was my livelihood to get backwards from work each day. We got it fixed, and and again, I had to wait another 2 weeks for a wheel, but they were able to do it again. And this time, I went round each of the spokes and was just like, yep. After that, it was all okay. I biked to work. It was a different time. Obviously, I can drive now, so I don't really need to worry about, well, I don't really need to worry about cycling. I just need to worry about other idiots on the road because, you know, there's a lot of them.